How's it going, everyone? It is Andre Williams, and over here we talk stocks and we focus on one thing. Always protect your profits. And today we're going to be talking about Mullen, which was down almost 8% on the day. There were some key levels we've been talking about for quite some time. It has finally gotten there. We will review that. And of course, I'm going to give you guys the most recent update. I won't waste any more time. Let's jump into the agenda. If you're new to this channel, I just want to let you know we have timestamps down below inside the description. But if you're a shareholder, you're thinking about taking a position, I highly suggest you watch this full entire video. So the first thing we're going to go over is the technical analysis. We're going to be taking a look at the overall price action. We want to know support. We want to know resistance. We want to know what it looks like in a bearish case scenario and as well as in a bullish case scenario. And then we're going to be going on Fintel, taking a look at the recent short interest information. The reason why this is important because it does have an impact on the way the stock performs. And then we're going to be taking a look at the order flow distribution. We want to know the buying and the selling behavior on the retail side and as well as on the institutional side. And then when all of that is done, we'll be going into the final thoughts and as well as some more details. So let's get to it. So we're going to do a technical analysis for Mullen. Let's see how it performed on the day. So it ended up closing at $1.05, being down 7.89%. On the low, it tested $1, and then on the high, testing $1.11. When we take a look at the volume stats on the day, you can see we traded at 42.146 million shares, and the average volume over 10 trading days is at 108.115 million shares. So we had below average volume on the day, and we also seen a pullback in the stock. Now, when we take a look at our chart, which is a daily chart, you can see from the RSI down below, it's at 41.83. And then when we take a look at our moving averages here on the chart, we are below the 200-day, the 50-day, and as well as the 21-day EMA. And it's clear to see that Mullen is in a bear market, trading below all of our major moving averages. So we ended up filling in the gap today. If you guys remember, I said that we had a gap to fill at $1.03. We ended up testing a low right at $1. So many are keeping an eye on this area and looking for Mullen to bounce. It saw a high today at $1.11, but that is not enough. It needs to have price action above the 21-day EMA, which is at $1.21. If it could hold support and consolidate within this range, then it looks good to test a 50-day moving average right here around $1.49. But if it decides to break through this $1 level, you guys know already the area that we want to look for in regards to a bounce will be right here in the low 90-cent range and as well in the mid 70-cent range, so around 75 to 76. These are well-known areas for Mullen to actually make a move, so that's why you want to keep an eye on these levels. But for the most part, we're still having a continuation of those lower lows and as well as those lower highs, so it is looking bearish. Now let's move on to the short interest information. So we're going to take a look at the recent short interest information from Mullen. So the off-exchange short volume ratio is at 33.21%, and then for the off-exchange short volume, it is just over 7.68 million shares. Scrolling down on the page, the short shares availability is at 0, updated 3 minutes ago. And then for the short borrow fee rate, it is at 10.32%. When we take a look at the history of the short volume, we can see for the close of the 9th, it was at 48.60. And then for the close of the 10th, being at 33.21. And then when we take a look at the short interest percentage of the float, being at 9.08%. So if you guys remember, it was around 14% before previously. So it looks like shorts have been covering. Now let's move on to the order flow distribution. Now let's take a look at the order flow distribution for Mullen. So we see on the inflows at 7.80 million, and then on the outflows at 7.87 million. So we had an outflow day. Taking a look at the breakdown, on the large it was 1.73 million. On the medium, it was 4.51 million, and then on the small, it was 1.56 million. Taking a look at the outflow side, you can see on the large, it was 2.03 million. On the medium, it was 4.68 million, and then on the small, it was 1.16 million. Taking a look at the large scale orders in the last 5 days, you can see for today, June the 13th, we had that outflow of negative 0.3 million. Analyzing the numbers even further for the small scale orders that tends to represent the retail side, you could see that we had more buying than we had selling. And then when we take a look at what happened on the medium, we had more selling than we had buying. And then when we take a look at the large, which represents whales, institutions, and funds, that's where we had more selling than we had buying. And then when we take a look at the turnover ratio, it was at 12.82%. So this is up there for a stock like Mullen, but we do know that it's volatile as well. And with all of the uncertainty and selling pressure we have inside of these markets, no surprises why it's up there. Let's go into the final thoughts and we'll go over some more details. So for my final thoughts for Mullen, when it comes to the price action, so we have finally filled in the gap. If you guys remember what I said in my previous video, we had a gap that needed to be filled at $1.03. It ended up seeing a low of $1 on the day. It also did have a high at $1.11, but this is not a good sign whatsoever because of the 21-day EMA. And if you don't remember where it's at $1.21 at the moment. So having price action below this level definitely does not look good for the stock. I want to make sure I'm being straight up with you guys. And also taking a look at the technicals and so forth, it is continuing to form lower lows and as well as lower highs, so it is looking bearish. But no surprises there because we do see a lot of selling pressure in the market overall. But what you want to keep an eye on if it decides to pull back further is to see if it decides to bounce in the low 90-cent range, around 93 cents. And if it does break through that level, the previous bounce that we had was around 76 cents. So keep an eye on these levels if you're interested. I know a lot of my investors out there like to load up on shares as well when it's trading in the 70-cent range or lower. Many are looking to actually build out their positions, hoping that this stock gets back down to the 50-cent range. But if you're looking for a turnaround or you want to see some strength in the short term, Mullen needs to get back above that 21-day EMA, and then hopefully you want to look for that test going to the 50-day moving average where we could see some resistance. So just make sure you keep an eye on that if you're deciding to wait for a move like that. But as far as for the short term, I'm just not seeing it. Also, when we went on Fintel, taking a look at the recent short interest information, we could see that the short interest percentage of the float has gone down quite a bit. If you guys remembered, it was right around 14%, and now it's around 9%. So that is a significant difference right there. So what this play needs is more buying volume coming in. We need to have some more interest on the retail side and as well as the big money loading up. But as far as the conditions that we are in and the fact that this company is not profitable with no strong revenues whatsoever, that's why we're going to have a lot of volatility coming into this play, and why I emphasize if you are going to be investing in this company that you do your homework and you do your due diligence. We are in an environment, a high inflationary environment. So a lot of growth stocks are going to be feeling a lot of pain. You're going to be seeing them pull back like crazy. You might say, well, you know what? This is the bottom. I'm going to be loading up some shares, and then there's a new bottom a couple days after. And it doesn't help since we had the CPI data that came out last week and it wasn't good whatsoever. We also do have the FOMC meeting for this week, and we have the quad witching on the Friday. So if it does decide to pull back, I don't want you guys to be shocked. And if it does gain some momentum, you know the levels you need to look for in regards to the upside. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and let's see how the stock performs going into tomorrow. We'll talk soon.